and welcome to this incredible live stream. Guess what? My feed is going to be taken over, hijacked, whatever you want to call it, by Doyle and Keith. So drum roll over to you, Doyle and Keith.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Emery. So this is one of the conundrums of live and broadcasting and all that, and is that not everybody has all the tools that we always need. So Annemarie has done a wonderful job of hosting us, and I mean that literally, onto her channel, her StreamYard channel, which actually can broadcast to LinkedIn Live. And that's going to be something that we really want to talk about and get down into deep as well. So I'm here with Keith Keller, my favorite co-host, and we've also got Doug Morneau as well, who's joining us to talk about LinkedIn versus podcasting. And my name is Doyle Bueller, and this is part number 5. Isn't that cool, Keith? We've been here for 5 episodes.
Well, look, the thing that I'm fascinated about today is that this is a LinkedIn Live special, and you and I don't have LinkedIn Live. Like, yes. We don't have it. We've asked, but we haven't got it.
We're not the cool kids. We're not the cool kids on the block. So we had to ask,
and we did, and Emery graciously agreed to let us co-host this show with her on her LinkedIn Live, because she's one of the only people in the world that we know that have it. And the question we're asking today is, well, what is LinkedIn Live? Is it worth putting your hand up for? And if you do, how do you get it? And, you know, we're going to talk about that. There's been quite a few changes this week. You can now do LinkedIn polls. You can now run events from LinkedIn. So that whole story is about, well, is LinkedIn Live a thing? My polls say that it isn't, but I'd be interested in the group's discussion on that. But the bigger question, which I want to get Doug and Emery both in on, is that they both have live streams and they both have podcasts. And they're going to be very, very, very sharp with their analysis of which one's better. They've done both. They know the facts as it relates to their businesses. And today we're going to pull apart, should you do a live stream? Do you want to put your face in the camera? And if you do, what's the advantage? Or don't you want to put your face in the camera? And is the ear the better thing? Is it better for convenience? Is it better for traction? Is it better for building community? We're all different. So we've got Doug Morneau calling in from Vancouver. We've got Doyle calling in from Perth. Emery and I are both in Melbourne. And this is really Live Streaming 101. We're trying all the tools for you. So back to you, Doyle.
Live streaming decoded, even.
Isn't it? It's live streaming ABC, audience building content.
100%. And you can actually do both too. And I think, well, Annemarie, you do both. You do podcasting and live streaming. Doug, yeah. you do both podcasting and live streaming?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. So I do podcasting and live streaming as well. So I think that there's a good match, but let's kind of break that down and see what exactly it is that we're talking about. And start us off, Annemarie, like give us a little bit of background about yourself and then how you're using it. And then we'll move on to Doug and then dig deeper into all this good stuff.
Yeah, well, when we started, and I say we, Keith Keller and I started podcasting, it was back in 2008. And of course, technology back then was very limited. After a number of years, I started using Zoom to podcast and just capture the audio, even though Zoom enabled me to do video. And then I realized that with Zoom, they would allow you to stream live into one platform. So I started to do that and was streaming live into the Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast Network, which is my podcast network, and then hearing about StreamYard being able to stream across 5 platforms. When I first started, it was only 4 because I didn't have LinkedIn Live. But then when I got LinkedIn Live, I thought, well, why not stream across all of those platforms? But what I do is when I stream, I'm actually recording the podcast as it will be on the audio version. The only thing that my team and I do is obviously we take off the outro that I will use on StreamYard, because we've got a video outro that doesn't have the voiceover, but we add that when we're in the editing. So we're kind of live streaming the interview, which is working really well for us. And I think, why not? The tools are there. Why not leverage them?
Fascinating. Excellent. I've got a lot of questions coming up, but let's jump to Doug. Tell us about your podcasting / live streaming journey.
So I've been podcasting now for a couple of years. So this next week will be my 200th episode. And I started off really with no experience, didn't really know what to do. Just figured, hey, I'll just get a microphone. I've listened to podcasts. I'll start inviting guests. I cheated my podcast guests by inviting vendors that I was spending money with. They couldn't say no. And that was it, and I did audio only. So I'm using Zencaster for my audio. I wanted to do video for a long time. I haven't found a platform that gave me the audio quality and the video. I now understand by talking to other podcasts, you can use Zencaster for the audio, so you get crystal clear audio, and use Zoom for the video. So I'm going to try that. When this whole COVID thing hit, I thought, hey, I've been saying for months now I need to get some video content. So I'm going to start doing lives every day and just inviting people on and talking about how they are and how their business is changing. And that was it. Again, just kind of threw my hat in the ring and turned the switch on and started talking.
Oh, that's cool. And what kind of platforms are you using then for your live streams? Is it Zoom or?
Yeah, I'm using multiple Facebook pages, so business and personal pages, YouTube and Periscope. I have not been approved by LinkedIn yet, so we've got the coveted LinkedIn person in the room. So thanks, Annemarie. It's great to see you again.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Like, is LinkedIn shooting themselves in the foot? I'm going to be completely blunt here by only limiting it. And Annemarie, maybe tell us the background. Did you apply for it once and got it, or did you try it a couple times and got it? Personally, I've tried like 4 times, applied, and I've been live streaming for like 3+ years. I've had a podcast for like over 4 years. I'm always doing lives and that sort of thing. So I was really hurt that LinkedIn said no. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
Emery.
I applied twice, and then obviously one thing that did happen, and I don't know whether this was integral. It may very well have been. One of the founders of StreamYard put our name forward to.
I do remember that. I do remember you telling me that.
Say, look, we do have some people that are leveraging StreamYard and would like to, use it on LinkedIn. And within a short amount of time, I was approved. So yeah, I still can't believe that the platform has been around for quite some time, LinkedIn Live, and so many people still don't have it.
Is that George?
So why are they restricting it then, or limiting it? What do you think the reason is behind that?
I have no idea, especially when you think, because one of my clients who had been podcasting for a little, he got LinkedIn Live months and months before I did, and it was almost like, so there is no rhyme or reason that I can fathom. So your guess is good as mine.
Okay, so
that's when you go. It's handy to know people in the know.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, exactly.
Yesterday they announced, or there was an announcement that LinkedIn is supposedly expanding. They're adding back in polls, which they had, I think about 5-6 years ago, and they're adding events, and they want to push live some more. I don't know. Do you think that's going to actually happen?
Yes. Oh, well, I saw a notification on this just the other day via StreamYard alerting us to that. I've been busy. I haven't actually been able to dive into it. So really looking forward to seeing what that's involved. Because one of the things that I've noticed, and I'd love to hear if Doug has had any feedback on this, because of what's happening now and so many more people are restricted, they are going and watching lives and participating and engaging.
Yeah.
I've even had some
Perfect
people
timing, isn't it?
that their lives on Facebook, the reach has just exploded again, and that's because people are using that as a way to really to build that connection whilst we're not able to see people face to face. I'm just going to share.
Do you mean the reach on LinkedIn Live or on Facebook Live?
Facebook Live.
Facebook Live?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we're seeing that too across different platforms as well, for sure. Like if I had a look at some of the lives that I've been doing over the last few days and streaming also live on LinkedIn, we're capturing audiences from all over the different platforms. We're seeing that consistently.
Okay. That's very, very good.
Yeah. Has LinkedIn Live missed the boat, Doug?
I don't think so. I mean, I think they're being careful. There's a lot of people creating content, and I think they're just looking for quality control at this point. They seem to be a little bit more conservative. I mean, they're a business platform, so I think they're looking for people that will produce good quality content for their users. So it's a good experience, opposed to opening it up and blowing it up.
Yeah, well,
And Doyle's
my-
going, yeah, I tick those boxes.
Oh, you saw me, did you? Mental tick, mental
Again,
tick.
like, it's kind of like, yeah.
And
And
Like,
LinkedIn, are you listening?
I
Go
think
ahead,
that's
Keith.
actually the. I think that's actually the point. I was actually chatting to my wife, who's at home as well, and we were trying to work out why you, Doyle, haven't got LinkedIn Live, because we know each other and have known each other for a long time, and I can't see the value proposition of them not giving you LinkedIn Live. But we were just saying, well, maybe they're being extremely fussy, because Emery and Jane Jackson, who are mutual friends of ours, have LinkedIn Live. They have a very professional network and they have a very professional outlook, and their content is of a high quality. And I'm agreeing with Doug there that they probably want to have some screening process, but maybe they don't have enough staff, or maybe they haven't got round to it yet. But to have applied 4 times and have had 200 live streams under your belt, I'm inclined to agree that they may have missed the boat. I mean, the real PowerPoint would have been, say, March, April, when people are screaming for stuff. We're screaming. We're stuck at home. We're stuck at home, and we're screaming for streaming. Right? I just made that up.
Yeah, I love
But
that.
the point is
Streaming
that,
for streaming.
and you're there thinking, I'm screaming to do it, and hello,
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm ready. I'm willing. I've got the stuff. I'm set up. I've got a mic. I've got a camera, and I could create content for you. And so I'm a little bit frustrated by that too.
And I even outlined a show that I could do specific to LinkedIn, like leveraging that LinkedIn Live platform as part of the show itself. But anyways, I might, who knows? We'll see how it goes. But let's get back to podcasting versus live streaming. Should somebody, a business, pick one or both, or try both? Emery, you've done an amazing job of repurposing your content. So you take your live and you just strip out and just rebroadcast the audio. What's a recommended first step?
for me or for Doug? I'm happy for Doug to jump in.
Yeah, Doug, if you want to start us off.
I would say it depends where your audience is and what your goal is. I think the business case for podcasting can be different than it is for live. For me, my business case, people go, well, how do you monetize your podcast? And I haven't heard very many people have the conversation. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe I haven't listened about how do you monetize your live stream. Everybody wants to live stream. But in podcasting, the whole conversation is monetization. And so my strategy was not advertising. I said, I'm not putting advertising in my podcast. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to identify the smartest people I can in the world that are in the sales and marketing business. And I want to interview them and I want to build relationships with them for long term. And so, I've had Keith on my show, I've had Annemarie on my show, and I've built relationships. So here we are again. And those relationships have, over the years, translated into major dollars, but because of the relationship. So I think that, at this point, I don't know how I would use live stream to do that. I guess I could go through the same process. But, again, it depends. What's your business goals? Where's your audience? If your audience isn't on social, then it doesn't make sense to be here. So again, it comes back to, the individual and what you want to do. You can't do everything at once. Start with one, make it work. If it can't make it work, you're not comfortable, then, there's other options.
But do you feel that there's more of a connection with video and live streaming? I mean, some people, you could definitely argue that there isn't. You're still kind of behind that firewall type thing. But do you think that just having that visual to talk with somebody, to see them while you're talking, helps at all in connecting, or not?
I do. It helps me connect with them, but I honestly prefer to just do the audio on my podcast because I really want to listen to what my guest is saying, because, the goal of a podcast is to make the guest the star. And so if video is an impediment for them, I don't want that to take away from what they can bring to the show. So will I always do just audio? No. Do I think we need to go to video? Absolutely. But to Anne-Marie's point about live streaming and the growth in the marketplace, it really comes back to, you still need to market it. So, if you have an influencer do a shout out, that's not the value. The value is being able to advertise that the influencer shouted you out. The value of being on someone's podcast is to share that, hey, Doyle had me on his podcast. Doyle's a really smart guy, so therefore I must be a little bit of a smart guy because he invited me in the podcast, listen to Doyle's podcast. So, I still think that's the biggest value. It's less than, it's not as important for the live as it is for what you do with it. Like Annemarie does, like repurposes the heck out of it.
So Annemarie, do you see a difference in your audience between the shows? The format, like live streaming versus podcast?
Yeah, I do things. Before I answer that, I love to be able to include my audience. So our audience, this is our audience. And Shabir, I know that you had him on the show. Maybe it was last week, actually.
Yeah,
so is now Microsoft, absolutely. And just to rub this a little bit more in your face, Doyle, he applied 6 months back and he hasn't. So.
No,
we're gonna have to go to the petition.org and we're gonna have to get
really change.org. Yeah.
For you.
Give Doyle access to the platform. So one of the things that I do is, as you know, live stream my guests, and I just say, unless of course someone really says, look, I don't want to be on video, I won't. But it's like what I do with people said, and often when we start, they just forget that the camera is there. And
you forget.
And we finish and they go, wow, that was amazing. And they're so glad that they did that. And so, yeah, I just pull them onto the live screens, not necessarily clicking and screaming, but it's a lot of fun that way. But to get to respond to kind of monetizing, absolutely what Doug said, you have to have a real clear idea on the outcome that you're wanting, the purpose for the show. And one of the things that I will do is, we're talking about strategy with a podcaster, is you need to have kind of what I call a podcast profit pipeline already set up, so you can start to nurture listeners into leads and paying customers from your very first episode. So we teach a whole tactic around that. So what we do as far as the show is concerned, when you know who your ideal client is and the information that they are wanting, you can make sure that you guide your guest whilst elevating them and really showcasing their expertise, but in a way that you know is valuable for your ideal customer. And of course, if they want to go on and connect with the guest, that's great. But then you know that the call to action at the end of your podcast is going to, for those people who are ready and who are along the buyer's journey, to say, yes, I want to find out more. They're far more compelled to the podcast has to engage, it has to educate, and it has to entice. And you do that along the journey as you're interviewing and kind of nurturing that guest. And so when I do lives, we're not only doing lives on our podcast, but also part of our marketing strategy. I mean, I'm doing an intensive at the moment. We have over 450 people registered. Not everyone comes to the live stream, but the ability to build a trust at scale, when you are just talking to people and you're answering questions with no filter, there's an incredible amount of engagement that you get and trust that you build when people know that you know your stuff. And I think now is the time, because as we know, trust has been the greatest gap. Edelman Trust Barometer last year said it's the greatest gap in all of the times that they've done their survey, which means that our audience, and we're consumers too, they need to be informed, and they want to be informed, with integrity and, with vulnerability. And I think live streaming allows you to do that, because there's no scripts, there's no, fakeness. It's just you, the camera, and obviously the audience.
So you pretty much freestyle then, Annemarie?
Oh,
you have like an intro that you might kind of follow along, and then some key points, or do you just kind of go, hey, let's do
this live stream is part of, because it's, again, when you map out your business model and your marketing strategy, the pipeline, part of that is those live streams. And I've done 2 Q&As, and I'm guided by the questions that I'm asked. And I'll bring some in where we will do on graphic, so we bring in some slides, and then through using StreamYard, I'll bring in questions and I'll just answer them. And it's interesting where I don't know what questions I'm going to be asked, and I answer them that way. And that's just part of the strategy in live streaming in audience, in building engagement with my audience.
Fantastic, and it's quite the journey as it goes. Let's get into the LinkedIn criteria. Unless Keith, did you want to add something, and then we'll jump into our 20 criteria for live streaming.
I will say something. The reason why I was very inspired to do this particular show is because, some people say, well, look, why not just do everything? You might as well. That's the sort of catch-all approach. But a lot of people say, mate, I can't do everything. And I've got limited time. I've got kids at home. I've got to work. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. So I'm all about finding out which site works, starting there, and then branching out. And I think the idea of live streaming means that you can do a live stream which captures all of that video goodness, all of the stuff that happens with video, but you also have the advantage of getting an MP3, so you could, if you wanted to, turn that into a podcast. So it's a bit of a 2-for-1. So my gut feeling is that live streaming is the place to start if you can, if you're up for putting your face on the camera. And if you're not up for that face-to-camera thing, then podcasting still allows you to hear the person and focus on the guest without all the bad hair days and having to put makeup on and have a shave and get the lighting right, because there's an extra layer, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So what you're saying, Keith, is you can start simple too, right? Which is a pretty good point. Like, you don't need to start on StreamYard. We're kind of looking at these platforms to seeing how they can apply for your business. But you can start with Facebook Live. You obviously can't start with LinkedIn Live, but you can start there. You can sort of get comfortable as well and practice and that sort of thing also.
Yeah. And Bill, that's what I'm really thinking about. Just start somewhere and build it. And then we've been doing this a long time, so we have multiple platforms and multiple content sources, but that just didn't happen on day one. I've known Doug since 4 years probably, and I was on his podcast, I think, in 2016. Wow. And at that time it was a funky thing. And it's still funky.
And how do we meet?
I'm not even sure. Probably on Twitter.
On Twitter. I mean, about 11 o'clock in the evening, my time, we're having this really long conversation with this guy who I don't know. So there's an example of social media. People say social media doesn't work. It's like, yes, social media works. We're all here because of Keith's introduction. And I said to Keith, who's one guest I have to have on my podcast? Oh, you have to have Annemarie in your podcast. So it works.
Yeah. I just think I'll bring some comment in here. It's so true. He says, usually say focus on consumption mechanism too. People prefer listening and not watching. Absolutely. And even neuroscience is showing that people tend to want to listen more to audio because it doesn't place as much strain and stress on the brain than visual. Maybe because of the situation now going where everyone's kind of isolated, they are getting their fix of peopling, if you will, through the live streaming. But technically, I think audio allows, because it's a secondary activity. One of the people that just recently had a conversation with me, she said, I tend to listen more to podcasts when I'm commuting to work. And now that I'm working from home, I don't kind of have that time blocked out in my day, and I'm busy with the kids and homeschooling and everything. Some people do listen and prefer to listen to podcasts at home whilst they're doing housework and so forth. So yeah, it really depends. You've got to know your audience. And I think with podcasting, one of the things that I find, and Doug, love to hear your thoughts on this too, there's a deeper level of engagement because people are more likely to listen to the entire thing than, say, be worn out by watching the live stream. So
wow.
There's a level.
Great insight.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I find, if I'm doing the video, I'm sitting in front of my laptop or my desktop. With a podcast, I've got my phone in my pocket. So if I go into the next room, it comes with me. I don't very often stream and watch off my phone because the phone screen is small. When I go to the gym, I take out and I can listen to a couple of podcasts. I'm riding the bike or lifting some weights, whatever I'm doing. But I'm not going to take my laptop out. I'm not going to look at the screen. So I find myself even on webinars. Sorry for all you people who have webinars. I like them. But about half of them, I just listen to. And I keep working. So I just minimize the screen. I listen. I don't need to see every slide. I don't need to look at 65 PowerPoint slides, and just take the content by audibly.
Yeah, and so it's as a consumption while driving and jogging. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think that was something that we were hearing even a number of years ago. I can't remember who it was. It may even have been Amy Porterfield that said that many people were watching her videos, but listening to them, they'd minimize. She said, why do we invest so much money in getting all this video production when people aren't watching, they're listening? So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. But you've also heard the phrase of people getting tired of Zooming too, right? Because it does take that active participation, and you have to remember if your camera's on or not. But yeah, I've heard a lot recently that people are kind of tired of zooming this and live streaming that because they have to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so let's get into the criteria. So we have 5 groups that we talk about. The first category is presentation. So we're going to talk about LinkedIn Live as well. And Anne-Marie, you're our expert here. So we'd love to get your feedback in here as we get into it. So how many guests and how do they connect on LinkedIn Live?
So because I'm streaming through StreamYard, we're restricted by their platform. So at the moment we've got 4. We can have, and I know that you've featured StreamYard already, but you can have up to 6 people. And I believe it's 10 people, isn't it, in the green room, so to speak. Keith, you can probably confirm that too, because I've never filled the green room with people. The only difference with LinkedIn Live and using StreamYard that all of the other platforms have, but LinkedIn Live does not, is I cannot see comments from LinkedIn Live and I cannot bring them into the feed like we can with the others, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
I think Restream is working on that.
Yeah, and I think the reason is because LinkedIn, so Microsoft, doesn't share their API. So as we said, we've got Pix here, we've got Nashed. I hope I pronounce your name right. Gadani from the career industry, Keith. Remember, he's got a career podcast.
Wow.
Live. He does LinkedIn Live too and turns them into a podcast. And I know that Shabit was saying that he does that as well. And Nasheed said, curious about the LinkedIn Live platform you use, Anne-Marie. We're using StreamYard to stream into LinkedIn Live.
That brings up an interesting point, though. Like LinkedIn, obviously it's owned by Microsoft, so they could have easily connected sort of that. I mean, potentially, I'm from an outsider. Teams, Microsoft Teams with LinkedIn Live, potentially. But also they didn't develop sort of the actual streaming software, right? They're enabling pieces like StreamYard or Restream or whatever to do the heavy lifting, right? So all they're doing is basically saying, hey, if you've got these platforms, you can, put a feed into your profile. So really, they haven't invested a lot in this. Really, when you think about it, they've just
it's
said,
very
hey,
much an add-on, isn't it? It's very much I think it's very much a very, very 2-star add-on. I'm not that excited about it. I'm a bit disappointed that it's been so hard for my friends like Doyle to get it. I mean, Doyle's doing it. I mean, he's in the field. Why are you having so much restriction? I can't believe it.
Yeah, when really it's just, honestly, it's probably just flicking a switch. It's like, okay, do you have StreamYard? Yes. Okay, here you can broadcast live through LinkedIn, because they didn't do any of the software development to allow that. They just said, here, put the feed in. You guys develop it. You're the software expert, StreamYard and Restream. Just build us a feed, a live stream feed. All right. Anyways, number 2, chroma keys and background blur. I guess in this case you can do that through StreamYard or not, Anne-Marie, but you can't present directly on LinkedIn with that.
So can you repeat that? Chrome?
Yeah, can you use the green screens or background blurs with LinkedIn Live?
Yes, because whatever you are seeing on StreamYard and whatever StreamYard allows, you'll be able to see that being streamed onto the podcast, onto the platform on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So if
do you use green screens at all, Emery and Doug?
I don't.
No.
I have for some video shoots when in professional stuff. Right now, this is my home office. So, I've got behind me my Canadian football team. I've got a bunch of alumni hockey guys.
Is that the Stampeders?
No, oh, come on. Nice guy, thanks. You know how to poke me. That's
you're not a BC Lions fan, are you?
Well, I cheer for the team where I live. And what I like to do is when I talk to my American friends, I turn my camera around and I go, hey, remember that gold medal game? There's Luongo making that famous save. But yeah. So yeah, this is my home office. I show people here's the lights. This is what you get for $100 for light. So I just keep it really stupid simple. A $39 or $49 Logicam. Well, I've got a super expensive mic for the podcast, but everything else is really simple, and I use what I got.
So you don't feel that having a green screen is helpful to production?
It might be. I just haven't got there yet. Really, I think it comes down to, to your point, and everyone, Keith shared that as well, is, start with what you've got and then build on that. So I had a microphone and I had a camera. So I bought some lights and I flicked the switch. Will I get a green screen? Yeah, I'll get a green screen. I need to figure out a strategy because I don't want to have the palm tree blowing like a lot of people have in the background. I want to make sure it's meaningful and represents my brand. So
I've got an idea for that.
Sure, free marketing from Keith Keller. Go ahead, buddy.
My wife is working from home and she works in the finance industry. So we went to Pixabay, pixabay.com, 1.7 million free images. And we found some office shots that look like it could be an office. Nothing fancy, no palm trees, no Ayers Rock, no beach shots. It's clearly not too extravagant. And what happens by putting that simple background, it actually takes it up a notch because she's got to work. At that time, she was working from the lounge room. So we don't want to have the lounge room shot in a professional financial advisor call. So we had this very simple, understated office shot, which could have been an office. It was that understated. And there's a million images on Pixabay and they have a very, very reliable keyword search function. So you just type in office or beach or Ayers Rock or palm trees or whatever you want, and hundreds of variations come up. And that actually got her out of trouble a few times.
I want to stream my backyard because I live on a couple acres and I've got a river about 30 feet.
Wow!
So you're going to have us have envy there, Doug.
Well, I'd like to do it outside. I just can't stream because I don't have a cable out by the river. I've got Wi-Fi out at the gazebo, but so we see the bears come through and the squirrels and the eagles fishing and all that sort of stuff. And so I just thought I've got a camera in my yard that's hooked up. I just want to stream that behind me because I can't take all this gear outside.
Brilliant.
That's
brilliant. What a great idea.
Yeah, no,
Keeping it real. We're doing a show on that. We're doing a show on that in a few weeks.
Just on that point, Doug, to answer your question about green screens, one of the reasons why I don't green screen is because I really want to encourage people that you don't have to have a professional studio. I do live stream. I mean, obviously, I'm very mindful that there's no clutter or anything like that. And now I, in fact, had someone reach out to me once just to make a comment on one of the ads that we were running, said, "Oh, I see you've got a door behind you." And that, and I said, "Yeah, I do. But the reason I'm doing that is because I want to let people know that you don't have to have all those airs and graces. And I do that purposefully. It's part of my brand. This is me podcasting, live streaming in my home office, and you can do it too because it's more for my encouragement."
We've always been about that, haven't we, Emery? That's very much our brand. We're very, and I love that about Doyle too and Doug. We are out there leading the pack in a way. We're saying, look, we're doing it. We're just guys in the suburbs. We're just people in our houses who have decided not to work in the city, and we've been doing this for a long time. Obviously, people now are doing it, and they have to do it. But we've been doing it since 2010, and I've always said, look, I'm just a guy in the suburbs. I've got a mic, I've got a light, I've got a webcam, I've got a pair of headphones. It cost me like $200 total. And we're out there sharing our knowledge. Sure, I don't look like someone on the telly, but I don't want to look like someone on the telly. I'm not on the telly.
And you know what? You don't want to, because if we go back to Edelman Trust Barometer, they identified that they wanted to encourage CEOs and leaders of business. We are all leaders of our own business, and we've got a message to share. They do not want scripted and fake. And one of the things that they mistrust now is media, government, because of all of the fake news. And so if you start to come across with, sometimes you see these platforms with these news-looking type sets, you're going to instantly have people start thinking, well, this is not trusty because they're going to talk BS, because that's what we now think of the news. So, keep it kind of professional and clean and tidy, but you don't have to look. In fact, don't look like you're coming from a professional studio.
Yeah,
one point you mentioned. Sorry,
go ahead.
You mentioned the study a couple times, Anne-Marie, and I just had somebody today. I was doing a pre-interview for a podcast tomorrow, and they're a very large influencer marketing firm out of New York. So they work with the biggest brands. Like one of their clients is Nike. And so what was interesting was when I asked, she said, so what sort of question you can ask me in the podcast? And she said, that the word influencer has only got a 60% approval rate. It's almost a negative word to use now because people are starting to distrust influencers because they're promoting brands and they're getting paid. So they're looking going, well, these guys will say anything now for $1. I used to trust them. So to your point, I think being authentic and being real and not always pitching and having this polished, like, I had a meeting today and I came out of the gym. So my hair looked really crummy. I had a t-shirt on. I was still sweaty. And that's the way it is, right? So that's real. Not all the time. I got to dye my roots, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that, so true. And something that I also was able to garner from that and this relates to what you're talking here, Doug. I was saying that they want real, authentic conversations. They want those conversations. They're turning to leaders of organizations. Don't leave it up to government. Don't leave it up to the authorities because we don't trust them, and they don't want scripted. They want real from the heart. And on your point of influencer, I know someone who's an expert in his field, and he completely had to change, not only for this reason, but he changed his whole brand and messaging and slogan because the word influencer was very much part of, and he recognized that there was a negative connotation to that word, and it continues to be so and increase. So absolutely.
Fascinating stuff, guys. Thanks. In screen share, I've seen, might be a trend or not, but you can actually buy like a printed photograph kind of thing, and you use that as sort of like a physical backdrop, as opposed to just your office, or just a wall. So basically, print it to look like. I've seen wood paneling, and I've seen studios, and I've seen that kind of stuff too, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, to me, it's like, okay, if your audience is expecting that, then go ahead and do that. If not, keep it simple, keep it easy, start, right? That's obviously the main thing. As you get more skilled in what you can do, then potentially add it. There still are some quirks with the green screen, and that's, I think, why I don't use it either. And then you have to set extra things up, and it just becomes a lot complicated. All right, Keith, we got a message from Sarjeet. I don't know if you saw that. We have to get your laugh so then we can put it into a loop.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Do a GIF. Okay.
It was nearly out. It only kind of just started and then it fizzled out again.
Yeah, we're about to get it. And then
I thought, Emery, this is a good time to introduce that comment. And
we'll do a boomerang. Okay. I'll sort of have it sitting there on the background. All right.
Okay. Well, we'll let you laugh when the laugh track is ready. For that. All right, so branding, screen graphics, and overlays, you can do that through StreamYard. There's nothing that you actually can do with LinkedIn, Annemarie, correct?
Well, that's correct, because really LinkedIn is allowing the feed from StreamYard to show on their platform.
Yeah. Audience experience and interaction ability. How is the audience able to view and interact with the show and the guests and host? So if we went to your LinkedIn, can we actually put a comment in, and will people see the comment? But we won't be able to see it in StreamYard. So there seems to be a huge disconnect here.
So I'm watching StreamYard from LinkedIn on here, and I can see that there's 3 comments. Pix, hey Pix, if you're still watching. But yeah, you can't bring that in. So typically what I will do is let people know that I am watching LinkedIn here, and I'll bring in your comments. So I will read out their comments and I will acknowledge them, because they're watching the exact same thing that we're watching on screen. It's just that we can't show their comment, and that enables still some level of engagement with you.
So Sarjeet, then he was commenting on Twitter then, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Twitter is obviously a lot more advanced with the live platform. Well, Periscope's been around for a while. Keith, weren't you one of the original users of that?
Well, Periscope's been around since 2015, and we had this discussion last week that Periscope and Meerkat were parallel for a very long time, and Meerkat was the place where the diehards went, but it actually collapsed unto itself, and then we had Blab. And black was exactly this. It was 4 people in a room with the sidebar, and it was an amazing idea. So what we're doing now has been really around since at least 2015, and we've been doing it since then. And now we're discussing whether LinkedIn is up to it. Really, we're really asking that question.
Is it up to the challenge?
Is it up to
Exactly.
the challenge?
Yeah.
I think it could be, because you said a very interesting thing, that why is it so hard to simply flick a switch from Microsoft Teams, which is owned by Microsoft, and send it to LinkedIn, which is owned by Microsoft? So surely someone in the tea room has had that discussion.
You'd hope so.
Well,
I did miss
they're not
one.
discussing in the tea room, Keith. They're all at home. And not
There it is. There's the laugh. It's coming.
Well, yeah.
Well, I'm sort of forcing that.
But I mean, they're on Skype, so I mean, it's not a reach for Microsoft. It's not like they don't have a communication platform or streaming platform outside of Teams either.
Yeah, Skype. Skype
Right?
is owned by Microsoft.
So if you look at what's happening with Facebook,
Skype and Teams and LinkedIn. So they've got that perfect trifecta that if they really applied that, I think they could, dominate that niche of capabilities. So
well, maybe Microsoft is not following in the platform of Facebook, who tries to be all things to all people and just kind of stay in their lane and go, well, you guys do the live streaming and we'll allow you to live stream to our platform. We're just going to focus on what we do best.
right.
but they're not allowing
What
Doyle,
if you
so that's
could?
not acceptable.
What if you could connect Teams to? I mean, obviously, it's like Zoom, right? Teams is similar to Zoom, so why couldn't you just connect that to LinkedIn Live? So if you do want to broadcast, obviously not every conversation is about sharing and broadcasting.
Your IP or anything like that.
Yeah, it seems like it's a no-brainer. But one item that I did forget was screen share, and this is important. You are obviously able to see my screen. I believe that I'm showing you the criteria on, but one of the cool tools that I've had with Zoom is that you can actually connect it, your iPad, for example, wirelessly, which allows you to kind of sketch things and that sort of thing. So we can't actually do any sort of advanced shares like that with StreamYard, unfortunately. Moving on, category number 2 out of 5, logistics, scheduling in advance. And again, there's a crossover here between StreamYard and LinkedIn. You can't schedule in advance on LinkedIn, but you can on StreamYard. Do a lot of people use that?
Well, having said that, whenever I stream ahead, and by the way, Doyle, just a note, you were sharing your screen and suddenly I realized, I actually have to push it onto the platform. So we have done that now. So we're looking at your slides. But when I schedule on StreamYard, it is scheduled to go to LinkedIn Live. It's just that LinkedIn will not, and neither will Periscope, set up, if you show a graphic and a little bit of information, it only gets pushed out once you go live onto that. So I still do schedule, but you just don't see that schedule ahead of time, that event that's coming up.
Well, why is that important? Let's pull apart why that particular part is important. I get a very strong sense, because I get asked all the time, okay, have you got the link, Keith? Can I put it in my calendar? Can you send me a reminder? The idea of only getting the link once you go live, I think, is a little bit of a weakness. Would you agree, or am I overstating that?
Well, it depends what your purpose is for it. If you want to prepare everyone, this is where we are going to go live, you can send people. It's fantastic. I know that it's been incredibly handy for me when I'm thinking about this intensive that I'm doing. So this kind of 5 days, people know ahead of time what I have done and that I've set it up. And what I also do is I've created links. So again, it's a part of your strategy. So I go podcastingwithpurpose.com/W1, and they will go to the live stream once it goes live. So when it's scheduled, I then go to Facebook and you get this, you got that large URL. I'll then use links and then link it down to a very easy to remember URL. And I promote it beforehand, and I've got it on a schedule. So people know exactly where it's going to be. It's easy to find.
I've used Pretty Links, and it's just dougmorneau.com/live. And that domain stays the same. And I just go in before the show, just like when I invite people to be a guest on StreamYard, I've got a URL to join. And so my guests don't have to remember 20 URLs. That's the URL. I just physically go into Pretty Links before I go live, and I update it.
Yeah, good.
Excellent. Yeah, so it is a feature that certainly we'll probably see that type of thing where it's more integrated, it's set up and it's easy to run so that everybody knows where to go. Keith and I have had some experiences where we've lost the link or not lost it, but it's how do we share the link because we had to change in halfway through type thing. So it's got to be a lot easier.
Shout out while you're moving the screen there, Doyle, Erica McKenzie. Welcome. Good to have you here.
Welcome,
hello,
Erica.
gentlemen.
Has she got some questions? I know this is actually a very good point. With live streaming and podcasting, people have a natural tendency to gravitate towards one or the other. And I know that Erica had some questions about that. So if Erica's on the call now, do you want to jump in, Erica, and make some questions? We'll give you some time for Emery while we've got her to answer those for you.
No,
just jump in. And that's actually one of the things I love about live streaming, because the bigger question we have is, well, why live stream at all? But with live streaming, we can actually take questions and answer them on the spot. With a podcast, it's a very passive experience. Yeah, that's one of the major advantages.
That's a huge point, Keith. Yeah, it allows that interaction that you can't get anywhere else, quite honestly.
So, Erica,
please, Erica, if you do have questions, please ask them, and we'll answer them. Ease of use and setup. LinkedIn, you have to do that through the third-party app like StreamYard, so you can't go direct on LinkedIn.
That's correct, and very easy to set up. I mean, you're just using the interface, obviously, of StreamYard, and it's exactly the same. You don't really do anything on the back end of LinkedIn. You have to obviously and this is similar with all the platforms. When you set up StreamYard, you have to give permission for StreamYard to be able to stream to LinkedIn. But once you've done that, you then can continue to stream and pick that up, select which platforms do I want to go live on this particular broadcast.
Excellent. Yep. Number 9, practice runs and record only without going live. Again, you can through the third-party tool StreamYard, but you can't directly on LinkedIn.
That's right. Yeah, you just would not add LinkedIn to the stream until you are ready to go live.
And who here has actually created a practice stream just to see how it goes?
Yeah, I did, but then it's like one practice and then dive in. I remember the very first time that I went live using Zoom. And I go, you know what, bloopers and all. I had a guest. I played the wrong intro, pressed, and then went, oh, wrong intro. Let's do that again. Take 2. And I just left it there because that's another part of my brand. If you make a mistake, whatever.
Can I pick up on what
we can have one of those laughs and we just continue on.
Let's pick up on what you just said there. The reason why Doyle and I are pulling apart the third-party tools, StreamYard, Restream, maybe another one called OneStream, is that on LinkedIn Live, you can go live and that's all you get. You get 2 people talking to each other. There's no frills. With StreamYard, you played an amazing intro with a little bit of funky music and a graphic, and it looks better. Yeah. It looks more professional. In a world where there are hundreds of people doing this every day, mostly on their phone or on the platform itself, and it looks a bit boring, we can now create some really quite dynamic processes. And that's why I'm really interested in software, why I'm really interested in playing out StreamYard against Restream and OneStream and the variations that will come after that. Because if we did this just on LinkedIn, first of all, you're only doing it on LinkedIn. You're not adding the others, like it's not on Periscope. Second of all, there's no goodies. And who doesn't love goodies? Yeah. Agreed?
We all like goodies. You can do a lot of great things like that. You can do an outro as well, and video outro. I do have that. One of the reasons why I did that, and this is a bit of a, for those people that may not know StreamYard, when you press end broadcast, there is still a delay. So I did not want me and my guests sitting there going, when you're looking at it and trying to keep that fake, that kind of not fake, but that smile whilst StreamYard, and that time frame differed. So I thought I'm going to end with an outro video and I'm going to remove ourselves so that we're not sitting there like, awkward people. Here's a question that Erica asked, and so I'm just going to put that in here because we did spend a bit of time. But how do you set up for LinkedIn Live that you have to register? But what determines approval? Wow, you should have heard the conversation up there we want to get, Doyle. That you just register and you have to wait. There's no kind of getting to the fun.
rhyme
Yeah,
or
but all
reason.
LinkedIn is doing is flicking the switch. So I don't know what criteria they're using.
You're good. Your guess is as good as ours, Erica. So
Yeah, but
thank you,
look,
LinkedIn.
Erica.
Thank you. Don't take away my rights to live stream, even though we're having a
Yeah,
little
no. You're doing a great job, Emery. They're probably not watching this anyways.
No.
But yeah, Erica, just you go in and apply, and if you want, I've got the link. I'm to apply because I've got it handy and ready, and everything pre-filled in as well. So happy to pass that on if you need it. So let me know. Send me a DM or just in Twitter, and I'll respond to that as well. Let's move on to the business side of things. Again, we're having to use a third-party platform, but cost and freemium model. Basically, we're using StreamYard to do that, and Emery, they do have certain levels of pay gateways, that sort of thing, to be able to have.
Yes, yeah. There's free, and then there's I think, and you're going to have to excuse me because whenever I find a platform that I really like and I know it's robust, I will go in. I went on the ground level of StreamYard. That's how long I've been using it, even before they started with the pricing now. And so I think they've got a free, and then they've got maybe a professional. Maybe they've got one in between that. But
We got three. Yeah.
Three. Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'll decode there if you like, because one of the things that I love about this show is that I'm going to research all of the tools, and I'm going to do the pros and cons. So StreamYard has the facility when it's free to do one site, no recording. So you can send it to Periscope or LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitch. But for $25 a month, you can send it to 2 platforms and you can record up to a session of 4 hours, and they hold the recordings for 1 week. So you can have Facebook and Periscope, or Facebook and LinkedIn, or Facebook and YouTube. And with the $49 a month version, you can have 5 platforms: YouTube, Facebook, page, profile, and group. You can have LinkedIn, you can have YouTube, you can have Twitch, you can have Periscope. There's more choices than you've got links. You can have up to 5 for $49 a month. And the value proposition there is that you've done one stream and 5 separate groups of people have seen it with the same amount of effort on your part. I mean, it's such a no-brainer, isn't it?
Well, you can also leverage a partner. So if Keith, you are going to do something like this, or Anne-Marie, or even Doyle, I mean, it's very simple for me to say, hey, I'll give you admin access to my Facebook page, my branded business page, so we can go across 5. Because I use all 5 right now. I'm trying to add a 6th one. They said, hey, if you really need 6, just send us a note. So I know they'll do more than 5. But I think the advantage is that if you're the host and you're doing this for a client with the either the second package, the $25 package, or the $50 package, you get all the branding, the overlays, the backgrounds. And so I've had my graphic guy create a whole bunch of different looks and feels, so I can manage these for clients and have it go on their YouTube channel, have it go on their Facebook channel just by selecting it.
So
yeah, it allows that great flexibility for that. Because you don't want to kind of be trapped as well in how you're doing it and how you're presenting it, so it works quite nicely. All of these services have some cost typically, but you can kind of get started at least, and again, try them out. That's the point here of this show, is to say, hey, let's keep it simple. Let's just try something and see. And guess what? For when you're first starting, you just need one channel and away you go. As you get more into it, and as you're including sort of client side stuff as well, that there certainly is an option for that. Number 11, business aspects, selling and marketing. Are there any built-in marketing or selling options to showcase products and services? LinkedIn, definitely not. StreamYard, not really, other than sharing a screen or that sort of thing. Why would that be important, Mark? Or Doug, sorry, my apologies. Why would you want to market directly on a live stream, or should you?
Well, you might want to give somebody, I mean, you can do some of that right now with live links and live comments. So when I've been talking to a guest and they say, hey, well, I've just had this book published, I say, why don't you just type it in the live comment? So, that's about as close as I've got to being able to share a live link where somebody can actually click on it or get the details is in a chat.
Do you
I've
guys
got an
ever
example.
use, Anne-Marie, a sort of a, not necessarily a selling feature, but hey, come join my program. Here's the link during your live stream. Do you guys use those kind of tools?
All the time.
Yeah.
It's called seeding and leading, but you do
Seeding
it
and leading.
authentically. In this intensive that I'm doing, because we're giving away so much value, people are already saying to me, by the way, are you going to share more information about your program? Yes, I am, but we're not. So, and so people, so the strategy that I'm using with my intensive, and again, how does this work? People who are subscribing to the podcast, we seed and lead that, hey, this is coming up. They're now signed up for that. They're going through this process. And so with the workshops, we are doing it live within a community group, again, using StreamYard. But then with the Q&A, which is where I'm fielding and just answering questions, I do that live across all of the platforms. And then people are thinking, my goodness, look at her. She's just giving away so much value. And I say, well, look, we're only scratching the surface. Come into the workshops. And I'll put something up like this. So you put little links, like what Doug was saying. Is if you're only part of the Q&A and you haven't yet seen the workshops, come on in. And so you do this consistently. And so people will then go, yeah, I need to. In fact, I had someone that stayed up, and we mentioned this before we went live, saw a Q&A. It was 1:30 in the UK time, AM, and he said, oh, my goodness, I've got to go to bed now, but this was so good. He's now in the intensive, and he's already saying, I'm really going to. Now, if he doesn't, that's fine, because my whole purpose is, look, share your message. And if you've got what you've needed from our intensive, that's fine. And so you just continue to do that, give value. And people who are ready to make that decision, because they're so far up the customer, the buyer's journey, they will, if it's a good fit for them. So that's what
Perfect.
I do.
Yeah. So it's a great tool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Number 12, networking ability, open format. No, they don't have that. We're talking here about something like Zoom Rooms, for example, where you can have a breakout room, or something like Remo, where you basically create a networking opportunity. So we've actually got, just that reminds me, I'm part of this other group where we're having like a non-stop networking 24 hours around the world, and we've got hosts around the world. So we're actually using Zoom to connect with people in all parts of the world, which is pretty
Is that
cool
your group
as
with
well.
Mark?
Yeah, that's the group with Mark. Sorry, that's why I think I crossed my brain misfired there. But it's interesting because we can connect other people from around the world, and I think that's the power of these tools as well. Number 13, overall business value. How does this platform allow for a good overall business case? Let's talk specifically LinkedIn.
Well,
Doug,
if your
what do you
your
think?
client is on LinkedIn, and I know many of mine are, then absolutely. Why would you not use LinkedIn Live if you've got access to that feature? So, and sometimes what I find is that some people will hang around. Like at the moment, I know that there's 3 people. Hello, if you haven't commented, leave a comment so we can shout out and acknowledge that you are here. So I know 3 people there. But what we also find is that people will watch the replay. And yeah, so why wouldn't you if your audience is there?
Doug, overall business value of LinkedIn Live, and again, from an outsider perspective, does it help people who you've seen use it?
I think so, because I follow a number of influencers on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, because it's a B2B platform, is a perfect platform for me, and that's where my audience is. And honestly, that's where most of my referral leads come from, are LinkedIn. So if I'm looking at all the platforms where people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to schedule a call, I have X problem, I need you to solve it, it's coming from LinkedIn. It's not coming from Facebook. Like, I know they're on Facebook, but that's not why they're on Facebook. They're not looking at Facebook to solve their, the problems that I solve for them.
Good stuff. All right. Category 4, technical. So multiple channel broadcasting and quantity. That's basically relying upon the third-party tools. So in this case, StreamYard. Video broadcast quality and options. This is only coming out at 720, right, Anne-Marie? Through StreamYard, Keith, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
I think you
Okay.
said once that Zoom is the only platform that we know of that streams
Yeah.
at 1080. No other platform streams at 1080. And the only reason why that is important, and I keep saying this, is that I love editing. And in the repurposing world, if we want to take all of these individual screens and blow them up to fill the screen at 720, it's a little bit fuzzy. Not bad, but a little bit fuzzy. And 1080 is just a lot sharper. So that's why we've included that particular criteria.
Yeah. Let me just add a question, if you don't mind. From what Erica's got a number of questions. She asks, is live streaming or podcasting better for building your brand? Which is better? They're both good. What you've got to do is map out your customer journey on their buyer's journey and say, what is this piece of content and which area are they at and how I'm going to leverage. So I don't think one is better. All ways of marketing your brand and elevating your brand is great. How are you using them and how are you integrating? So unless
can you pick up on that a bit, Emery? Can you tell us a little bit what you mean by finding out what your ideal client is? Because a lot of people haven't had that discussion yet.
Yeah, your ideal client. Well, who do you want to serve? Who do you want to be able to support? What are they struggling with? What keeps them up at night? All of that. You need to understand what that is. And so the content, because that kind of speaks into this particular questions. What are the best strategies to ensure content is relevant and stands out? Well, you need to know your ideal client so well that the content that you're sharing is of real value, so that if you suddenly do a live stream and it's 12 o'clock midnight for them, they are there glued to the screen because they know they're going to walk away with incredible value.
And that picks up on what Doug just said, and that is that, look, we know that my friends are on Facebook, but my referrals don't come from Facebook. My referrals come from clients on LinkedIn. So this would be a very strong use case for LinkedIn Live. We better all sign up for it today. But to get back to Erica's question, if your client, if you've worked out that your clients love podcasting, well, that's what you probably better do. But if your clients love video, then you better suck it up and get a camera and some nice lights and get used to it and have a shave. I mean, as I said, the idea of LinkedIn Live and live streaming is that there's extra layers. I've got to have a shave, I've got to have lights, I've got to have a webcam, I've got to have a mic.
But you can do both. I mean, Annemarie does both, right? So she live streams hers. The one advantage right now with podcasts is whether or not you're an Apple fan, if it's in iTunes or CastBox. Like when I wake up every morning and I pop open my phone, I've got all the latest podcasts that I follow in CastBox. So right now, there's no notification system that I'm aware of that says, hey, last night, Annemarie was live, watch the replay. For the podcast platform, there's a dozen of them that I log in are in my face. And then today we've been experimenting with the smart banner that you can set up with Safari. So anybody who has an iPhone and opens Safari and hits your website, they can now see a banner and a link to your live or to iTunes is what it takes them to. And
that picks up on Alexa and Google. What's that Google thing? Hello Alexa, can you tell me the latest podcast from Emery? And it just spits them out. Yeah. So, and that picks up on voice activated command, isn't it? Hello Google, tell me where the nearest restaurant is. So you're right. With podcasting, you've got all that array of tools that the consumer has. You wake up in the morning and there's a list of podcasts you can listen to while you're having your breakfast. That doesn't exist with live streaming yet, does it?
No, but that's actually an interesting thing that might be a plug-in somewhere is to do something like that. So, hey, reminder that your live streaming that we had yesterday kind of thing is ready to go again. So that can be implemented on a basic marketing type level anyways. So maybe that's something that people need to look at.
Yeah. But if they hear it on our show, they have to give it to us free, right? If somebody's listening and hears that idea on the show and creates it, they have to give it to the four of us free.
Lifetime access. Lifetime access. You are welcome. One thing that does happen on LinkedIn when you go live or anyone goes live, you get a notification. Yeah. And so often I will get something flashing on my screen. Oh, so-and-so is going live. So you can then obviously click in and watch that. So that's a bonus.
Yeah, it's a good starting point. Layout of host panel and customization. Again, this is just through StreamYard. So you have those capabilities to flip views and to show things and not show things and add guests as well. So again, it's a third-party tool. So you kind of use what's given to you there. Platform stability. Have you ever had StreamYard crash on you?
I haven't actually.
No.
No.
Yeah, some platforms that I've tested Be Live, I'll be specific here, has crashed and burned while we're in the sort of midst
Are
of
you
the
there,
stream as
Keith?
well. So
Hello, Keith.
And you said on the show a couple of weeks ago, Emery, that Zoom crashed for you on numerous occasions. Went straight.
Yes, it has. Yeah, and then it was not able to connect on onto Facebook. And there was, sometimes what I'll do is try and monitor to see what was going on, because what tech department does is ask you all these questions, and they may not have updated the system, or they may have been on a specific computer. So it just it depended on whether they upgraded their site. But because they also relied on Facebook, if Facebook did an update and they hadn't yet updated to suit, caused all sorts of issues.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I think it was. Yeah, I could not connect with Zoom onto Facebook. So always have a plan B, and that's one of the things too to consider is that look, if you are doing these lives, you know what? It's pretty likely that something's going to happen. So
expect the worst and just go with the flow.
Yeah, exactly, and have a backup too. Is you might want to just record it and push it out, upload it, or whatever the case may be. So make sure you've got some ideas that you might be able to use. Use a different platform, use a different tool. Go right to for example, if you're wanting to stream on Zoom, but Zoom can't connect to Facebook, go direct to Facebook and just do a quick little, video with your live with your mobile or whatever the case may be. All right, cool. Well, let's keep going here. We're pretty much done, almost done. So then we can wrap up. Category 5, post-production. So create and download recordings in different formats. StreamYard, yes, using that as a third-party tool. Can you actually download it from LinkedIn? Can you go into like Facebook, for example, where you can go into the video and then download it there? Can you do that with LinkedIn? I've not
tried that, to be honest, because I only ever download from StreamYard, of course. So, but that's interesting. I don't think you can.
I don't think you can.
No.
Interesting.
Someone else might be able to tell us that.
Yeah, that ties into number 20 as well. Are your episodes saved on LinkedIn as posts, and can you go back at any point in time, or does it categorize them as videos like Facebook does, for example, or do you just kind of have to search and see?
No, they do show up on posts. So obviously if I go to, when you go on LinkedIn, you go posts and activity and so forth, they will show up. So they do have that everlasting span. One of the things that I was thinking, or lifespan, one of the things that I was thinking of doing was downloading a video and uploading it to Vimeo, say, and then embedding it into like a LinkedIn, like a post, a proper like article, and seeing whether that kind of got a little bit more interaction as well. So you can try these different things, but they do remain there on the platform.
Okay, so you can reshare that video, that LinkedIn Live video later to say, hey, this was my video from last week.
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Keith,
you can.
Doyle, and Doug.
Yeah, and people will find it. I mean, I've still got comments on ones that I had a couple of days ago, and people will find it and watch and leave a comment. So,
what I'm testing some a new platform now called Vidalytics for video, and it's a paid platform, and I like it because I get analytics, so I can see how many people watched it, how deep they watched it, if they replayed it, if they fast forwarded it, and then it's got a tracking pixel in it. So I use YouTube and I use Vimeo, so I'm one of the marketer guys who's bought one of everything, and I just try them to see which one works and then apply them in the right place. So I think LinkedIn still probably prefers the native video in their platform than a link out.
Yeah, definitely.
True.
Yeah.
Emery, when you get time, I'd love to know if you can actually like download the LinkedIn video direct from LinkedIn. Because that could be handy in terms of what you do with. I mean, obviously you can with StreamYard, and perhaps that's not a moot point, anyways. But does it actually store them that you can actually use later? For example, if you stop your StreamYard subscription, would the videos still be there? Could you still download them?
Yeah.
Love to find out. Number 19, ease of video editing and highlighted speaker view. This is one thing that we talk about a lot. Zoom has that sort of automated capability where if you're talking or sneezing or coughing or clicking, sometimes your video will appear first. But from an editing perspective, that's actually pretty good because then you get the enlarged view of that person to be able to talk with.
Yeah, it's good. I can answer your question. I've just gone back to a previous LinkedIn Live that I've done. You can feature on top of your profile. You can save it. You can copy link to post. You can embed the post, edit, delete, and who can see the post, but you cannot download the video.
Okay, there it is. But it's very, very easy to download it on StreamYard, isn't it? Extremely.
Well, and YouTube obviously as well, right? I mean, StreamYard goes right to YouTube. So even if you want to keep your channel private, it'd be a great place to archive them because to your point, Keith, the StreamYard agreement says they host it for 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
So you get busy, you don't capture it, it's gone. But if you've got it on YouTube, whether even if the channel's private, at least it's there forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Whereas if it is on Facebook, you can download it at any time in the future. I'm wondering, I mean, obviously, perhaps it's a storage issue with StreamYard, but Be Live, for example, the episodes are there. I can download them and, from episode number 1 kind of thing, like 3 years ago. So it stores them. Whereas I was quite surprised that StreamYard, I even tested this out. Yeah, StreamYard deletes them after 7 days. So if you don't download them, you're kind of
I would do that too from a liability point of view. I wouldn't want to be responsible for hosting your video. Even I kept them for 10 days. If I said 7 and 11 days you show up, it's like, hey, we said 7 days.
They do it on 7, so I checked. It was 7.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes.
Went there with Blab, which we all love and was a great platform. I'm so really quite traumatized by the fact that site disappeared. The reason why it disappeared is because it was so popular so quickly that they imploded under their own expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So people were doing all of these videos and they were keeping them. Mm-hmm. And they basically imploded. The actual technical challenges associated with keeping all of these videos on the system and all of the recordings ad nauseum because they didn't have a limit basically meant that their costs exceeded their ability to recoup them. So when I saw that StreamYard had a really quite clever idea that, look, we will record, but we'll only record them for 7 days, that means that they're freeing up their bandwidth. And so that means that they can operate at lower costs.
But storage really is I mean, it's dirt cheap, isn't it?
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, there is no real cost with data. I mean, yes, there is, obviously. I'm not saying. But it's quite insignificant, right? You have some programs where they do it automatically and they do save everything. Doesn't matter what size you use or whatever the case may be. Whereas some are restricting it. So yeah, there probably is a financial type aspect to this.
That's a good point from Sajid.
4 to 5 year old videos. Yep, still there on Periscope.
Wow.
And it's good because it really continues to add value to your brand, doesn't it? That's why I would say keep it up there. Every now and again, Keith, when we get our memories on Facebook, pops up, we're starting a new online radio show. So it kind of validates that what you're saying. So I think
one of the things I want to pick up on is Doyle has always said, and I love this about his philosophy, is that he's always said that in order to build trust, you have to be seen 7, 8, maybe 10 times.
And be trustworthy.
That's right. So what do you call it? The zero moment of truth. If you're presenting to a client and they've never heard of you before and you've got nothing online and they've never seen you or heard you or read a blog, then how can they possibly know you're any good? But if you've got all this library of material, they go, oh, well, Keith's been doing this since 2006. Must be all right. Well, I guess
he's a rock star.
There's a bit of a trust thing there. Whereas if I just started and tried, and people do it, this is why the word influencer is such a sort of non-term. People try to pretend they know what they're talking about when they don't.
Yeah. And you know what? I would add, and I'm sure people would say this and they would validate it, and we're probably all consumers, so we would agree. I know I would, that if someone's got a podcast or they've got a live stream, or even if they're on Instagram and they're doing their stories, that builds trust far quicker than if I'm reading an article from them. Sure, articles are good, but there's something about interacting and hearing and listening and watching that person.
I hadn't thought of that. Do you really think that's true? You've got some stats for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've maybe it's just me, but if I'm listening to a podcast and I've kind of built trust of that person, and then they're launching a program, I'm thinking I want to work with that person, or I'm
you kind of get to know that person.
I've
More
bought
than
more books off Kindle because someone's mentioned it or referred to it on the podcast. So
I would never have thought of that. So
Well,
you think
no,
blogging is a thing, but it's not as powerful as podcasting.
Yeah, but who wrote the blog post, Keith? I mean, go online now. I use a platform that gives me access to like 30,000 writers, so I can produce content like 20 articles a day on all sorts of topics under my brand, right? So you don't really know. Yeah. So I mean,
you can't hire someone to do your live stream. I can't be Doug. I can't be Keith.
No one looks as good as Annemarie on camera, so we can't.
No one's got my laugh.
No one's got your laugh, Keith.
Well, I'm trying to hold it, but I can't.
All right, let's go to the bonus round. So number 21 bonus and number 22 bonus questions. So we'll go sort of roundhouse here. What's the overall skill level required for LinkedIn Live? That's the first one. Doug, basic, advanced, or expert?
I don't know. They won't let me in, so it must be expert.
Okay.
If you can maneuver around StreamYard, you're good to go on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So basic?
Yeah, definitely.
Keith?
Well, yeah, I think if you once you get it, just use StreamYard, and so StreamYard is a very easy platform to use. So it's basically an add-on. So yeah, basic.
Yeah, it is pretty easy to use. It's very intuitive and quite simple, the interface to use. So yeah, I would consider it basic as well. Number 22 bonus, on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, how do you rate LinkedIn Live, even if you have it or not? Doug, you first.
I love the platform. I think it's brilliant. I give them 4 stars. They're missing a star because they're not open.
You're not on it yet.
Well, no, it's not just me, but I mean, there's a lot of people that have great content and that produce a lot more or better content than I do, and they're not on either. So, if you're going to serve your audience, then make sure that you open it up so it's a fair game for everyone.
Yeah, I'd agree. Same here.
Emery, so 4 stars?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the highlight of LinkedIn Live?
Well, for me, and Doug has probably said this the way through too, my ideal clients are there. I mean, I've got business directly off LinkedIn where people have seen, watched, heard, or even read something that I've posted, and then we've connected and we've furthered the conversation. So, and yeah, it's a different audience. People are on LinkedIn. Not that other people aren't serious, but they're in a different frame of mind when they're interacting a lot, on the other platforms. And so I certainly validate that's a good platform for me to be on.
Excellent. And Keith, what about you? How many stars do you give it?
I'm almost inclined to let you go first, but I'll let you wrap up.
No, you can wrap up.
I'm going to give it 2 out of 5, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I've done a comprehensive Twitter poll about this, and remember, it's a Twitter poll of my market, and the score is 2.9% of my market has heard of LinkedIn Live. 2.9%. And several of my friends have said, mate, I've never heard of it. I don't even think it's a thing. Is it a thing? So my market is not on LinkedIn Live. They don't watch them. And the fact that very good friends of mine, like Doyle, who clearly is a rock star, doesn't have it, to me indicates a major flaw in their process. I mean, if it's going to be a site that's inclusive and representative of what's out there, then put the people that are talking about stuff on it. So it's like turning on the telly and only getting half the story. I'm not getting the full story. Sure, the people that are on it are great. My friend Jane and Emery and I've got other friends that are on it and they look great. But there's a whole heaps of people that I know are awesome that are Doug and Doyle right here are waiting.
You're all awesome.
Many times. So look, I would probably personally give it 3 out of 5. But given that my friends, and I've done a very comprehensive Twitter poll about this twice, 2.9% of my tribe, people that I trust and talk to every day, have even heard of it. So
and if I might add, no, absolutely. Thank you, Keith. And if I might add, Keith is the Twitter polling rock star. He's got some amazing polls out there. We actually have a launch pad. can't share the link, or can I? That has some of his polls in there, and well, just follow us basically. You'll see Keith's Twitter polls, which are some fascinating insights into what people are thinking and how they're actually responding.
I want to.
and
I
actually
want to
doing as well.
know what my tribe wants. I don't want to just. I'm not blasting out what I think I should talk
Yeah.
about that day.
Yeah.
I asked the question: Where do you want me to put my stuff?
Yeah.
Periscope, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live. You know, and several of my friends have said, "Mate, I didn't even know LinkedIn had a live platform." That's how successful it is.
Yeah, exactly. So
Let's see if we can share some of the polls. Are they on your
Yes.
on your Twitter feed now, Keith? Hang on. So
There's
here's an example of one. Yeah, what do you think is the best way to build your online brand? So you get some really good responses from that, don't you? Here we go, live streaming, podcasting.
Is that the one? 2.9%? Or is it up to 5%?
No, that's a different poll. This is one around traditional forms of content.
This is a very good one, because what I wanted to do, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I wanted to say that live streaming is more like TV. And so I wanted to ask how many people actually still watch TV
Without the ads, though.
without the ads.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Exactly,
then I
it's
asked the
niche
question-
content. Yeah, it's niche content. And what was interesting, ABC, it was either ABC or Roy Morgan, I think it was ABC, said in their survey, this was last year, what do you prefer? Do you prefer, I mean, this is talking about podcasts, do you prefer to listen to original content, or do you like to listen to like what radio does, trying to get on the podcasting platforms and just kind of just stream or throw up their pre-recorded shows with all the ads? And people, I think it was about 80%, it was a huge amount, preferred original content. So people are sick and tired of ads. You know, the podcasting consumer space, us as listeners and consumers, we're a different bunch. We don't like to be. That's why we left TV, why we left listening to radio, because we're tired of the sick and tired of the banter and the fluff and the ads being pushed.
And that's why Spotify has 100 million people paying them $10 a month. 100 million people pay Spotify $10 a month not to listen to ads.
Yeah, and that's
such a
sort of the
no-brainer.
the Netflix model, you know, from years back. That's people were tired of the advertising and were willing to pay to not have the ads.
Yeah. And
LinkedIn now
saying
allows
LinkedIn now
polls,
has
yeah.
polls too. Yep, we saw that.
So do a poll for us, Sergi. Did you enjoy this show?
I wouldn't
Who's
be
your
surprised.
favorite? Who's the favorite guy or lady on the show?
Do you think
All right,
we're going to see Zoom get in this marketplace and compete, Doyle?
Sorry,
Because,
say that
do you
again.
think we're going to see Zoom get into the marketplace? You've got Facebook now competing directly with Zoom, taking a shot at Zoom, saying, hey, we built our platform focused on security. Hint, hint, not like somebody else. And you don't have to be a Facebook member. So I'm just wondering how long Zoom's going to sit quietly before Zoom comes out and says, hey, you know, we're another StreamYard type product that'll take your message and you can have 20 people on a stream and go to all these platforms.
You can you can use Zoom for streaming now.
Yeah, but not to this many platforms.
True, you can only do one at a time with Zoom.
That's right. You can have a number of different ones, but you can only do one at a time. Is that how it works?
Yeah. I mean, look, Facebook has a huge advantage because they have whatever it is, 3 billion users or 2.5 or something like that.
Facebook,
so they've got that, but they kind of missed that marketing timeline too, right? Zoom's been doing this for years, and now Zoom is, it's a verb. Everybody knows when you say, are you going on a Zoom? They know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
so they transition that brand word to something that reflects them. So from that aspect, it's in the vernacular of how we actually do something like this, and most people refer to it as live streaming. It's a little bit more technical, but Zoom is, let's have a video conference call. So they've kind of captured that word. But, Facebook has done some things in the past that would say that they could probably capture a huge part of that market if they really applied themselves as well.
Just interestingly on that, before StreamYard even existed, and I'm not sure whether Restream was either. This is even before Restream. I was trying to stream using the OBS. Is it the OBS?
OBS, yeah.
OBS.
Yeah.
But you know what? I couldn't do it. And followed all
It's
the instructions. So you know why I couldn't do it? Because the codec, I think if that was remembering it correctly, for the video on Zoom wasn't what do you call it? Didn't connect, didn't link or whatever. Wasn't conducive to the other stream. So I reached out to their tech team and said, why isn't it? Said, oh, we're not even planning to do that. So they just weren't interested. So
we are planning to do a show on OBS, because OBS, just for people who haven't heard of it, it's like this really robust but hard platform that allows you to stream in high definition with lots of really great goodies, but it's really hard to use. I've had a couple of goes at it. I can't get it. I can't get it to work. And I'm not a dummy, but I'm not super clever. But I've been trying pretty hard, and you had to go, Emery, too, and you couldn't get it to work. So it must be
because there was something to do with the codec or something like that. That the video was not compatible, and I was trying to get it to go to Twitter, to Periscope, but they just wouldn't connect.
Yeah, and they can be complicated too, and that's why we've kind of decided Keith and I, to leave that to one of the latter episodes as we get into it. The purpose of this show is to demonstrate to businesses how they can sort of make clear decisions earlier on and start simple, start easy, and then kind of go from there as well. Overall, my rating of LinkedIn, maybe not quite as harsh. I was going to give them 3 stars out of 5, just because there is some aspects that, it's not the perfect platform. They've kind of handed off the live streaming to a third party, so it's not really that integrated as well. I can't just go on to LinkedIn Live, so they're missing, something specific there in terms of their audience and how does the broadcaster actually present themselves, and obviously limiting the access to, which I think they may have misjudged that. Sometimes you want to do that to kind of create that sense of demand, but as Keith's survey said, not many people know about it, and which is obviously a problem also. And then Annemarie, just to kind of wrap up, you showed sharing your screen there. This is our LinkedIn, our live streaming decoded launchpad. And you can go there, bit.ly/livestream launchpad, and you can go see some of Keith's polls. You can actually look at the specific criteria that we have, the 20 points as well, and then some of the episodes that we've had previously, so part 1 and 5. And then on the right-hand side, if you wanted to sort of survey your own platform or the one that you use, we'd love to sort of get your insights in terms of how does it rank amongst all these different criteria as well. And we'd love your feedback in terms of, well, guess what? I think StreamYard could be higher or lower or whatever the case may be. So please feel free to take that on for us. So really, really enjoyed the conversation, Annemarie, Keith, as always, Doug, and myself, and it's been a pleasure talking with you to talk about LinkedIn Live and podcasting versus live streaming. Any other last